The night my life cracked open, the apartment was too quiet, not the comfortable kind of quiet, the kind where spoons clink against bowls and someone hums out of tune in the kitchen. This was humming fridge, distant traffic, thin walls kind of quiet. I sat at the long marble dining table my wife had picked out. 8 chairs, 2 plates, 1 untouched. Her side of the table looked like a showroom. My side looked lived in. A ring from my coffee mug, a crease where my elbows always rested. The clock on the wall slid past 9:30 p.m. I checked my phone. No new message. I already knew what her last one said. Running late, don't wait up, big client. You know how it is. I did know how it was, just not in the way I wanted to. I pushed the food around on my plate until it went cold. The pasta had congealed into something that looked like the day felt, heavy, stuck, unappetizing. I used to be proud of her, still was in a way. Lee, senior partner at a boutique investment firm, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and tilt its gravity. Expensive watch, perfect blazer, clean lines. People listened when she spoke. When we met, I was working as a freelance photographer. Not broke, but not her. Not penthouse and private driver her. Not champagne brunch Sundays her. She said that's what she loved about me. That I didn't care about all that. Over time, I realized that wasn't completely true. Someone cared. I just wasn't sure if it was her or me. I heard the elevator doors down the hall. Footsteps. The soft whoosh of our apartment door unlocking. I straightened in my chair without meaning to. Like a kid caught up past his bedtime. Lee stepped in. Her heels clicked across the hardwood, sharp and precise. Her perfume floated in before she did. Something expensive, floral with a bitter edge. She shrugged off a cream coat and tossed it over the back of a chair without looking at me. Hey, I said quietly. She flinched just barely, like she'd forgotten I'd be there. Oh, hey, she didn't meet my eyes. You're still up. I thought we were having dinner. Her gaze flicked to the table, then to her phone. The screen lit her face in cold blue. Right. Sorry, the client meeting ran late. They wanted to go over the terms again and you couldn't text, I asked, softer than I felt. She exhaled through her nose, not quite a sigh, not quite a laugh. I did text. You said don't wait up. That was at 7. It's almost 10. She pulled out a chair, sat but on the far corner of the table, not her usual seat across from me, just somewhere else. I'm tired, Alex. Can we not do this tonight? Do what exactly? Talk. Admit we were slowly becoming strangers in a very expensive box in the sky. I watched her scroll through something on her phone. The screen reflected in her eyes small blue ghosts. How was your day? I tried. Exhausting. The answer came fast, automatic. The market's a mess, the partners are on my back, and I had to redo a pitch deck that my junior completely. I swallowed. I meant here, at home. With us. That finally made her look at me. For a second, I saw the woman I married, the one who used to sit cross-legged on my old second-hand couch, eating takeout from cartons and laughing so hard she couldn't breathe. Then the moment passed. Why do you always do this? She asked. Do what? Make it about feelings, about us. I'm trying to keep us afloat here, Alex. Maybe if you were busier, you wouldn't have so much time to overthink. The words landed like little cuts. I've been busy, I said quietly. You just haven't noticed. Shooting small weddings, corporate headshots, editing late at night while the city hummed below us. None of it glamorous, none of it big. Not like her deals, her bonuses, her business trips. And then there was the other thing I'd noticed. The late nights becoming more frequent. The new perfume. The sudden, nervous way she angled her phone away when a message popped up. The firm again? I asked, nodding at her screen. She stiffened just a fraction. Yes. I let the silence stretch. In it you could hear the refrigerator hum, the faint rain starting against the window. Who is he? I asked. Her shoulders rose, then slowly fell. Don't start, she murmured. Lee. My voice surprised me. It sounded older. Who is he? She pushed back her chair. The scrape of wood on wood was too loud in the quiet apartment. I'm not doing this, she snapped. Not after the day I've had. I stood up too, my own chair wobbling slightly. My heart was beating against my ribs like it wanted out. I saw the messages. There it was, out in the air between us. Floating, heavy, impossible to take back. Her face went still. On your laptop yesterday, I continued, because if I stopped, I wouldn't be able to start again. You were in the shower. The screen lit up. I miss you already. Last night was. I couldn't even say the rest. She closed her eyes, just for a second. When she opened them, they were different, harder, braced. You went through my messages, she demanded. I didn't go through anything. They were right there. You invaded my privacy. I watched my wife sex someone who isn't me on our kitchen counter, I said, the words trembling. In real time, Lee. I don't think privacy is the word you're looking for. Rain tapped harder at the glass. The room felt colder suddenly. She laughed once, short and humorless. Unbelievable, she said. You of all people lecturing me. Of all people, I repeated. What does that mean? It means, she said, voice climbing, that I work 12-hour days so you can sit at home chasing passion projects that barely pay the electricity bill, and now you're going to stand there and judge me because someone actually appreciates me. The words hit more accurately than she knew. I stared at her. So that's what this is, I whispered. You're rich, I'm not enough, and instead of telling me you're unhappy, you found someone who fits better on your arm at client dinners. Don't twist this. How long? I asked. She pressed her lips together. How long, Lee? When she didn't answer, something in me loosened like a knot slipping free. I loved you, I said quietly. Still do, apparently. God help me. But I can't be the only one in this marriage who remembers that. Her jaw trembled. She turned away, hands braced on the back of a chair. You're ungrateful, she said suddenly, the word landing like a slap. Do you have any idea what I've done for us? For you, I pulled you out of that tiny studio. I gave you a life most people dream of, and you stand there and accuse me because you can't handle that I have options. It stunned me. Ungrateful, I echoed. Yes, she whirled on me, eyes glossy with angry tears. If you don't like it here, if you don't like me, then get out. The room froze, my throat went dry. What? I whispered. You heard me? Her voice was shaking now, rising, cracking under the weight of everything unsaid. Get out, and don't come crawling back when you realize what you walked away from. She grabbed my old duffel bag from the hall closet, the one I used for photo shoots, and threw it at my chest. You're ungrateful, she screamed, the sound echoing off the high ceilings. Get out and never come back. The bag hit me, then fell at my feet. For a second, I thought she'd take it back. That she'd break, that we'd both collapse into the mess we'd made and try to fix it. She didn't. Her chest heaved. Her eyes dared me to move. My hands shook as I bent down and picked up the bag. Where would I go? I didn't know. What would I do? No idea. But I knew this. The woman standing in front of me, wrapped in designer anger and borrowed courage, wasn't the Lee I married. Maybe she hadn't been for a long time. I walked to the bedroom in a fog. Threw clothes into the bag. A pair of jeans, 2 shirts, my camera, a notebook, toothbrush. The whole time I waited for her voice. Stop, wait, I didn't mean it. Silence, I stepped back into the hallway, duffel slung over my shoulder. She stood by the window now, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the rain-slick city. I'll send for the rest of my things, I managed. She didn't turn. I opened the door. The hallway light was harsh compared to the dim apartment. It smelled like carpet cleaner and someone's faint cooking 2 floors down. Lee, I said one last time. She didn't move, didn't speak, so I did what she told me. I stepped out, let the door click shut behind me. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring at the white paint, my heart pounding in my ears. Then my phone buzzed in my hand, an unknown number, just a first name on the screen, Daniel. I stared at it, rain pattering against the small hallway window, and my thumb hovered over accept as the call kept ringing. I didn't answer, not that night. I watched the name Daniel flash across my screen until it stopped. Until the hallway light timed out and I was standing in the dark, duffel at my feet, listening to my own breathing. Daniel, I didn't know anyone by that name, but she did. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, the bag thumping against my side, every step down another layer stripped away. By the time I hit the lobby, the concierge was pretending not to notice. Evening, Mr. Carter, he said anyway, because politeness is a habit. His eyes flicked to the bag, heading out. Yeah, I said, my voice sounded far away, just getting some air. The glass doors slid open. Rain met me like it had been waiting all night. It soaked through my jacket, my hair, the thin layer of denial I'd been wearing for months. The city lights blurred into streaks of color on wet pavement. I walked without thinking, past the cafes where we used to sit on lazy Sundays, past the boutique where she once pulled me inside and insisted on buying me a jacket I still felt like I was borrowing. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number, a text this time. Alex, please pick up, Daniel. I tucked the phone deeper into my pocket like it was something burning. I ended up at the only place that made sense at 11 p.m. with a bag over my shoulder and nowhere to go. Dude, Mark said when he opened his apartment door, you look like a sad dog commercial. Water dripped off my nose onto his welcome mat. I tried to smile. It came out wrong. Can I crash? I asked. He didn't ask questions. That's what I've always loved about Mark. Curiosity, but not the invasive kind, the kind that waits for you to feel safe. Of course, he said, stepping aside. Couch is yours, towels are in the bathroom. And do you want to tell me what happened, or do I just keep making bad jokes until you crack? I moved past him into his small living room. The walls were close, the furniture mismatched, the air smelling faintly of instant noodles and old coffee. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. She told me to leave, I said simply. He whistled under his breath. Lee. Yeah. Like a fight or like, take a walk and come back, leaves. Like, I swallowed. You're ungrateful. Get out and never come back, leave. He was quiet for a beat. Okay, he said finally. Then you're not sleeping on the couch. You're staying as long as you need. He tossed me a towel. I laughed once, sharp. Thanks. The first night on his couch, I didn't sleep much. The ceiling was lower than ours. The mattress springs creaked every time I turned. A streetlight outside painted the wall in a pale, persistent rectangle. I stared at it. My mind looped the scene in the dining room. Her voice. The word ungrateful echoing in the spaces where I love you used to be. At 2:13 a.m. my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Please talk to me. It's not what you think. What I thought, I switched the phone off. The screen went black and in the dark I finally let myself cry. Quietly so Mark wouldn't hear. It wasn't the loud, cinematic kind of crying. It was the slow, leaking sort. The kind where your face gets wet before you realize it and your chest just aches. Days blurred. I found a rhythm in Mark's apartment, waking up before him, making coffee in his chipped French press. Listening to the city warm up outside, the first buses, the clatter of a metal gate rolling up, distant horns. I texted my sister to tell her I was taking a break from Lee, carefully choosing words that didn't make her panic. I ignored calls from unknown numbers, from her when she tried once then didn't again. I took on more gigs, not because I felt inspired, just because I needed something to fill the hours. Small product shoots, a newborn session. A job photographing an empty restaurant for their new menu launch. I found myself pointing the camera at chairs, tables, the bar, spaces meant for people, standing vacant in the early afternoon light, empty rooms. The images felt familiar. One afternoon, I went back to the apartment to grab more things while she was at work. I still had a key. The building still recognized my face. Stepping inside felt like walking into a memory. Everything was in its place. The coat she tossed over the dining chair that night was gone, replaced with a different one. A faint trace of her perfume hung in the air, mixed with something else. A different cologne. My chest tightened. On the kitchen counter, a coffee mug, not mine. The handle chipped in a way Lee would have hated. A man's jacket over the back of the sofa. Shoes by the door, larger than mine. I moved quietly, as if sound might make him appear. In the bedroom, half the closet was empty. My side. The hangers clinked softly when I slid them aside. She'd left my old sweater, the one she said made me look like a sad poet. It still smelled faintly like her. On the nightstand, a photo of us on our wedding day. Her hand on my chest, my arm around her waist, both of us looking at each other instead of the camera. The frame was face down. I stared at it for a long second, then picked it up. There was a faint circle of dust where it had rested. I turned it over and slid the photo out, folded it once crisp and put it in my wallet. The bed was made with new linens, darker, sharper. Not the soft sheets we'd chosen together on a lazy Saturday. I caught my reflection in the mirror, unshaven, older, eyes ringed with tired. Who are you? I asked myself quietly. No answer. Back in the living room, my phone buzzed. Against my better judgment, I glanced at it. Lee told me you moved out, the text read. I'd really like to talk, Daniel. My fingers hovered over the screen. Some part of me wanted to meet him. To put a face to the name that had been haunting my call log. To ask him what he had that I didn't. Another part of me just wanted to walk out and never look back. I typed, deleted, typed again. Why? I finally sent. The dots appeared almost immediately. I didn't know she was still with you when we met, he replied. Can we meet, please? I think you deserve the truth. The truth, hadn't I already seen it, in late nights and angled phones and downturned picture frames. Still, curiosity has its own gravity. We agreed to meet at a cafe 3 blocks from the apartment. Neutral ground, too public for anyone to yell, too small for anyone to hide. I recognized him before he waved. Early 30s, sharp suit, good watch. The kind of man who fit perfectly into Lee's new world. Polished, confident, hair neat even in the wind. Alex, he asked, standing as I approached. Daniel, I said. We sat. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The hiss of the espresso machine covered the silence between us. Rain streaked the window beside our table, turning the world outside into a watercolor. I'm sorry, he began. I watched him, saying nothing. I didn't know, he said again. At first, she told me she was separated, that you were more like a roommate than a husband by the end. That you were already moving your things out. Is that what she said? My voice was flat. He winced. I liked her, he admitted. A lot. But when I realized you were still living there, when I saw your photos on the wall, your shoes by the door, I ended it. I blinked. You ended it, I repeated, thrown. Yes, he said, quieter. 2 weeks ago, she didn't take it well. My mind scrambled to catch up. 2 weeks ago, before that night at the table. Before you're ungrateful. Before get out. She told you to leave after I broke things off, Daniel said slowly, reading my face. Didn't she? Behind him, someone laughed at another table. A spoon clinked. Steam fogged the windows. Rain was still falling outside, but inside, everything felt suddenly, brutally clear. Why are you telling me this? I asked. He hesitated. Because I think she's hurting, he said finally, and I think you are too. And I didn't want to be another lie between you. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. What do you want me to do with that? I asked. I don't know, he admitted, but she's not as invincible as she looks. She talks about you a lot. He looked at me, eyes steady. She still loves you, he said, in her way. The words twisted something inside me. Love, in her way. Was that enough? My phone buzzed on the table between us. Lee. Can we talk? Her message read. I stared at the screen, Daniel's reflection faint in the glass, and for the first time since I left, I had to decide whether I even wanted to answer. I didn't reply right away. I stared at her message, can we talk, until the words blurred, then sharpened again. When we left the cafe, Daniel shook my hand. For what it's worth, he said, I think you're the one she's afraid of losing. That's why she keeps pushing you away first. I didn't know what to do with that, so I pocketed it like loose change, something maybe useful later, maybe just heavy. Days passed. Her text sat there, unread but not ignored. A little red dot of unfinished business. At night, lying on Mark's couch, I thought about all the ways that conversation could go. She apologizes. I forgive her. We try again. Or she doubles down. I harden. We end for good. In all the versions, I never quite recognized myself. I was either too soft or too cruel or too wise or too broken. The truth was simpler. I was tired, not the kind of tired sleep fixes, the kind that lives in your bones. On the fourth day, I wrote back. Where? I asked. Her reply came fast. Our place, she sent, then corrected herself. My place, tonight, 7. The slip stung more than it should. Okay, I typed. Rain had taken a break that afternoon. The sky was a dull, uniform gray, like someone had lowered a ceiling over the city. As I took the elevator up, my reflection in the metal doors looked like a stranger in my own story. When the doors slid open, the hallway smelled the same. Carpet cleaner, someone's cooking. My footsteps sounded too loud on the runner. I stood outside the door for a long moment. This used to be home. Now it was a question. I knocked even though I still had a key. Lee opened the door almost immediately, like she'd been standing on the other side, waiting. For a second, neither of us spoke. She looked smaller, not physically. She was still in one of her impeccable outfits, a silk blouse tucked into tailored trousers, bare feet on the hardwood, but something in her posture, her eyes, less steel, more edges. Hey, she said, voice soft. Hey. We stood there in the doorway, a whole marriage squeezed into 3 feet of space. Do you want to come in? She asked. I nodded. The apartment looked the same and different. My photos were gone from the hallway. The frame that used to hold a picture of us now held a black and white cityscape, bought tastefully somewhere. The dining table was cleared. No plates, no laptop, just a vase with white lilies, their scent sweet and faintly funereal. She gestured to the couch. Sit, she said. Do you want something to drink? Coffee, tea, wine? Water's fine. She brought me a glass with 2 ice cubes because she remembered I never liked it too cold. That small detail hurt more than any oversight. We sat at opposite ends of the sofa, an empty cushion between us like a mediator. For a moment, the only sound was the distant hum of traffic and the soft tick of the clock. I'm sorry, she said finally. The words hung there. For what? I asked. Her eyes flashed, and for a second I saw the instinct to defend, to deflect. Then it flickered out. For a lot of things, she admitted. For cheating, for lying. For making you feel like you were less because I make more. For throwing you out of your own home like you were disposable. She looked down at her hands. I was angry, she said. At you, at me. At everything. Angry enough to tell me to never come back, I said. My voice didn't crack, but it wanted to. She winced. I didn't mean it, she said quickly. Not like that. I felt cornered. You saw something I was ashamed of, and instead of owning it, I attacked you. Daniel told me he ended it, I said. Her head snapped up. You met him. He reached out, I said I deserved the truth. A bitter smile tugged at her mouth. Of course he did, she murmured, always trying to be the good guy. Isn't that what you liked about him? I asked, not unkindly. She flinched but nodded. I liked that he understood my world, she said carefully. The money, the deals. The rush with you, I always felt like I was dragging you into it, like you were tolerating my life, not living it with me. I took a breath, and instead of talking to me about that, you found someone who fit better, I said. No accusation, just observation. Yes, the word was small. I did. We sat with that. I felt small around you, I admitted after a moment, like I'd been invited to a party I couldn't afford. Your colleagues, your clients, your everything. I never said anything because I didn't want to be the insecure husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. Her eyes glassed, so we were both pretending, she said. In opposite directions. The clock ticked, a car horn blared faintly 12 floors below. Why did you ask me here, Lee? I asked. What do you want from me? She swallowed. I don't know how to be without you, she said finally. The honesty in that knocked something loose in my chest. I wake up, she continued, voice shaking, and the bed is too big. I make coffee for two by habit. I reach for your mug and it's not there. I come home and it's quiet. Not the good kind, the kind that makes you hear yourself think. She glanced at me, then away. I miss you, she whispered. I miss your stupid playlists. I miss you leaving your lenses everywhere. I miss you asking me how my day was and actually wanting to know the answer. A tear slipped down her cheek. She brushed it away, annoyed at herself. I'm not good at this, she said, at being vulnerable. At saying I was wrong, at needing. I watched her fingers twist the edge of a cushion, a tiny nervous habit I'd seen 1,000 times in boardrooms and at family dinners. The same woman, different context. I loved you, she said, staring at her hands. I still do. I didn't know how to handle us changing. You changing, me changing. I thought if I could keep control of everything, my career, my image, my whatever, then I wouldn't have to feel how scared I was of losing you. You pushed me out before I could leave, I said quietly. She nodded, a short, jerky movement. I'm sorry, she repeated, voice raw. I know sorry isn't enough. I needed you to hear it, from me, not from anyone else. Silence settled between us again, heavy, honest. What do you want me to say? I asked, more to myself than to her. Say you hate me, she said quickly. Say you'll never forgive me. Say something, just don't disappear. I thought of Mark's small apartment. The morning light through his thin curtains, the way my chest felt lighter there, heavier here. I don't hate you, I said finally. Her eyes flew to mine, wide, hopeful. I wish I did, I added. It would be easier. The hope dimmed but didn't go out. Can we try again? She asked. The words tumbled out like she'd been holding them back for days. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I'll end things with him, properly, clearly. I'll put your work on the walls again. I'll come home earlier. We can set boundaries. Rules, please, Alex. Her hand moved, then stopped halfway, hovering between us. I want us back, she whispered. I want you back. There it was. The thing I'd imagined her saying 100 different ways on sleepless nights. The apology, the plea, the offer. And here, in the room where we'd built and broken so much, I realized something quietly terrifying. I didn't know if I wanted to come back. Behind her, through the wide windows, the gray sky was starting to thin. A faint, almost invisible light pressed against the clouds, not quite sunshine, not quite shadow. I don't know if I can, I said, barely above a breath. Tears pooled in her eyes. Please, she said again, but softer now, not a demand, a request. I need time, I said. How long? She asked, desperation leaking into the edges of her voice. I don't know, I repeated. We sat there, two people on the same couch but in different worlds, separated by one cushion and 1,000 tiny cuts. Will you at least stay for dinner? She asked, almost shy. We don't have to talk about anything heavy, just eat like we used to. I looked at the table, 2 plates set, 2 glasses. A simple meal, pasta, like the night everything collapsed, but this time steam still rose from it. The familiarity made my chest ache. Okay, I said. We moved around each other in the kitchen, a clumsy dance we used to know by heart. She handed me the plates. I filled the glasses. Our fingers brushed once. We both pretended not to notice. We ate mostly in silence. The food tasted better than I remembered, or maybe I was just hungrier than I knew. At one point, she reached across the table, like muscle memory, like routine, then stopped, her hand retreating before it found mine. When the plates were empty and the light outside had turned from gray to something deeper, I pushed my chair back. I should go, I said. Her face fell, but she nodded. At the door, she stood too close and too far at the same time. Will you text me? She asked, just so I know you're okay. I will, I said. We looked at each other, the air thick with all the things we weren't saying. I'm sorry, she whispered one more time. I know, I replied. I stepped into the hallway. Before the door closed, she spoke again, her voice catching. Alex. Yeah. If you don't come back, she swallowed, will you at least tell me? Or will I just wake up one day and realize you let go without saying goodbye? The question hung there, fragile, trembling. I don't know yet, I said honestly. The hurt flickered across her face, but she nodded. The door clicked shut. In the quiet hallway, my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. You good? I stared at the screen, at the closed door, at my own faint reflection in the polished metal of the elevator. I typed back, I don't know, and as the elevator doors slid open, for the first time, the idea of a life without her didn't feel like a void. It felt like a choice. Spring came almost without me noticing. Days grew longer by minutes I couldn't feel. Rain turned from winter's sharp knives into softer, passing showers that left the streets smelling new. I found a small studio. Not much more than 4 walls, a window, and a kitchen that was more suggestion than reality. But the light was perfect. It poured in every morning, pale and gentle, then warmed into something almost golden by afternoon. Dust motes floated in it like tiny planets. The first morning I woke up there, alone, I lay still and listened. No elevator chime, no distant hum of luxury cars below. Just the muffled sound of someone's radio in another apartment and the low, steady breath of the city. The emptiness felt honest. My things fit easily. A worn couch, my camera gear, a second-hand table I set up by the window. The folded wedding photo in my wallet that I still hadn't decided what to do with. Lee and I texted, at first, short, practical messages. Did you get your winter coat? It's still in the hall closet. Yes, thanks. Your tripod is here. Do you want me to send it with Mark? Sure, appreciate it. Sometimes there'd be a pause, a second message. How are you? I'd stare at it, fingers hovering, then type something neutral. Busy, you. Same. Polite, clean. Sharp around the edges. We didn't see each other again for weeks. In the quiet of my new place, I started to notice things I'd pushed aside. The way my shoulders felt lower at the end of the day. The way I hummed to myself when I edited photos. The way coffee tasted better when I didn't drink it waiting for the sound of a key in a door. I took more gigs. Word spread. Couples. Cafes. A small gallery asked to hang some of my work, shots of empty chairs in morning light, rain-streaked windows, half-cleared tables after meals. People called them melancholy. To me, they felt like proof that something could be empty and still be beautiful. Some nights loneliness pressed close. It would sit next to me on the couch, heavy and familiar. I let it. I stopped trying to outrun it. When it got too loud, I'd call my sister. Or go to Mark's and let him ramble about his terrible dating life until we were both laughing. Healing, I learned, wasn't one big decision. It was 1,000 small ones. Answering a call, not answering a different one. Opening the blinds in the morning instead of shrinking from the light. One Sunday, months after that dinner, Lee asked to meet. Coffee, she texted. No pressure, I'd just like to see you. If you're okay with that. I sat with the message for a long time. Old versions of me would have answered instantly. Yes, of course. Anything to feel close to her again. The man sitting at the little table by the window in the soft morning light wasn't sure. But avoidance wasn't the same as moving on. Okay, I sent. Same cafe as before, 11. Perfect, she replied. The sky was clear that morning. The city felt washed, like it had rained overnight and decided to give us a fresh start. When I walked into the cafe, she was already there. No power suit today, just jeans and a simple sweater. Hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She looked younger, or maybe just less armored. Hi, she said, standing. Hey. We hugged briefly. It was awkward, familiar, painful. We sat. How's the new place? She asked. Small, I said, but the light's good, that helps. She smiled faintly. You always did chase the light, she said. We ordered coffee. The server didn't know they were stepping into the quiet residue of a marriage. We talked about surface things first. Her work, my projects, Mark's latest misadventure, my sister's new baby, her mother's knee surgery, normal talk, safe talk. Then the coffee arrived, and with it, a silence that asked for something deeper. How have you been, really? She asked. I thought about lying. Fine is always available. Easy, polite. Some days are good, I said instead. Some aren't. I'm learning to live with both. She nodded slowly. Same, she said. The apartment feels too big without you. I pictured the long table, the extra chairs, the untouched half of the bed. I kept waiting for you to come back, she admitted, eyes on her cup. For the first month, I jumped every time the elevator stopped on my floor. Guilt flickered. I didn't want to leave you hanging, I said. I just didn't know how to say what I was feeling without hurting you. She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Newsflash, she said gently. You're allowed to hurt me. I hurt you first. We sat with that. You asked me that night, she continued, if I wanted you back or if I just didn't want to lose. I've thought about that a lot. She looked up, met my eyes. I think, for a long time, I treated love like a deal, she said. Win some, lose some, negotiate the terms, walk away if it stops serving you. And now, I asked, now I know it doesn't work like that, she said quietly. Love isn't a portfolio. It's two people trying, over and over, even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. A small smile tugged at her mouth, self-mocking. I was a terrible partner to you, she said. I know that. I made you feel small so I wouldn't have to look at the parts of me that already felt that way. You weren't terrible, I said softly. You were scared, so was I. We just expressed it in different wrong ways. She blinked fast, chasing back tears. I've been seeing someone, she blurted, then winced at her own wording. A therapist, not like that. I mean, you know what I mean. Despite everything, I smiled. Good, I said, I'm glad. She made me write a list, Lee went on, of the things I regret and the things I'm grateful for. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges. You're on both, she said, placing it gently between us. I looked at the paper but didn't touch it. I regret hurting you, she said. I regret cheating. I regret using money as a weapon. I regret throwing you out when all you did was ask me to be honest. She took a shaky breath. But I'm grateful I met you at all, she added. You taught me how to slow down, how to see things that aren't on a spreadsheet, how to sit in a quiet room and not be terrified. Her fingers trembled around her cup. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said, or to come back. I just didn't want our last real conversation to be me begging and you drowning. I watched the way the light hit her face, softer now, less sharp. I do forgive you, I said, her head jerked up. What? I forgive you, I repeated, not because what you did was okay. It wasn't, but because I don't want to carry it anymore. I don't want every good thing in my future to pass through the filter of what we did to each other. A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away this time. Does that mean, she began. It doesn't mean I'm coming back, I finished gently. The hope in her eyes flickered, then settled into something quieter. Acceptance maybe, or the start of it. I figured, she said, voice breaking just a little. I loved you, I said. I still care about you, a lot, but the version of us that existed in that apartment, I don't think I can go back to him, or to her. She nodded slowly. I understand, she whispered. We sat there, both looking at the paper between us. The list she'd made, the life we had. Do you remember that first apartment of mine? I asked suddenly. The tiny one with the leaky window and the terrible neighbors. She laughed softly through her tears. How could I forget, she said. The ceiling dripped whenever it rained. We put bowls everywhere like some kind of sad art installation. We were broke, I said, and happy, or at least willing. We were scared then too, she pointed out. We just hid it better. Under jokes and cheap wine. I nodded. I think, I said, choosing the words carefully. We confused wealth with safety. We thought if we got the right apartment, the right jobs, the right table with the right number of chairs, we'd be unbreakable. And we weren't, she finished. No, I agreed. We were just two people who loved each other and didn't always know how to show it. She reached across the table then, slowly. This time her hand didn't stop halfway. I let her take mine. Her palm was warm. Familiar, 100 memories lived in that simple touch. This doesn't have to be all or nothing, she said quietly. We don't have to be married or strangers. Maybe someday we can be something else, friends. Or whatever people become after they've seen each other at their worst, and don't flinch. Maybe, I said. We sat like that for a while. Two ex-lovers, former spouses, almost friends, holding hands in a small cafe that smelled like coffee and second chances. Outside, the light shifted. Morning leaned toward afternoon. Shadows moved across the floor. Eventually, we let go. She folded the paper back up and slipped it into her bag. I'm glad you're finding your light, she said, standing. I'm glad you're finding your quiet, I replied. We walked out together, then paused on the sidewalk. The street was busy. Cars, people, a cyclist weaving through. Life, indifferent and ongoing. This is goodbye then, she asked. Goodbye to that version of us, I said, not to everything. She nodded. Take care of yourself, Alex, she said. You too, Lai. We hugged one last time. It wasn't the clinging kind. It was soft, respectful, acknowledging everything we'd been and everything we wouldn't be. When we stepped apart, the sun slipped out from behind a thin veil of cloud. Not dramatic, just present. I walked back to my studio with my hands in my pockets, the air cool on my face. Inside, the room was warmed by the noon light, spilling across the floor and over the table where my camera waited. I took the wedding photo out of my wallet. For a long moment I studied it. Two people in love, caught mid-laugh, young, hopeful, unaware of the shapes their fears would take. I didn't tear it up. Instead, I found a simple frame at the back of a drawer. Put the photo inside, set it on a shelf with a few other pictures, friends, my sister's baby, a shot I'd taken of the city after rain. It belonged there, not as a promise, not as a wound, as a chapter. I opened the window a crack. Distant traffic hummed. Someone's laughter floated up from the street. A church bell rang the hour far away. The room was still, then not. Light shifted across the floor, inch by gentle inch. I sat at the table, picked up my camera, and turned it toward the empty chair across from me. The shutter clicked. In the frame, there was nothing but soft light, an unoccupied seat, and the faint outline of my own reflection in the glass. For the first time in a long time, the emptiness didn't feel like loss. It felt like space. Space for something new, something quieter, something earned. I put the camera down, closed my eyes, let the morning seep into my skin. And in that small, sunlit room above the city, with no one else there to hear it, I whispered to the version of myself who'd walked out into the rain months before, "You made it."